Imagine this scenario. You're enjoying your perfect cruise vacation when suddenly, a shocking $3,200 charge appears on your statement. Alternatively, you find yourself stranded at the port watching your vessel depart without you and your belongings. These scenarios aren't fictional nightmares. They represent actual catastrophes experienced by travelers who committed errors that former cruise staff observed repeatedly throughout their maritime careers. I've spoken with ex-crew members from Royal Caribbean, Carnival, and Celebrity Lines. Individuals who witnessed identical expensive errors happening again and again. Now, I'm exposing the 13 most significant mishaps these industry insiders caution you to avoid at all costs. These go beyond standard cruising advice. These represent confidential insights that might preserve both your holiday and your finances. Certain errors occur so frequently that staff members genuinely wince observing passengers commit them. And no matter what, avoid skipping error number 11. That particular one might actually strand you completely. Lucy Southerton, originally from Birmingham who spent 9 years working aboard cruise vessels, identifies this as the primary error she observed ruining travelers' holidays. She witnessed entire families embark believing all expenses were included, only to face bills that reduced mature adults to tears at the customer service desk. Mistake 1. Hidden costs. Here's the harsh truth. That comprehensive cruise package you believe you purchased falls far short of complete coverage. Certainly, your standard dining and accommodation are included, but virtually all additional services require payment. This encompasses premium dining venues, beverages excluding basic coffee and water, internet access, land-based tours, wellness treatments, photography services, and certain recreational activities. A single-family Lucy assisted accumulated more than $3,200 in unexpected expenses during merely a week-long Caribbean voyage. The father expressed such surprise that he questioned whether the billing contained errors. It did not. Cruise companies excel at this mental manipulation. They promote apparently reasonable starting rates while counting on passengers spending double or triple that figure once aboard the vessel. Additionally, here's the catch. You cannot simply disembark to seek less expensive options while floating in open waters. They have positioned you precisely where they desire, and your finances are about to suffer. Prior to boarding that vessel, investigate every item requiring additional payment and establish a practical daily expenditure plan. Lucy suggests budgeting at minimum $100 per individual per day beyond your cruise fare for a pleasant experience, and that estimate is modest. However, financial planning cannot protect you from error number 2, which might result in watching your ideal vacation depart without you aboard. Mistake 2. Flight timing. This situation devastates me each time I encounter it. Envision this. You've been saving for months, perhaps years, for this voyage. You reserve a morning departure, believing you'll have sufficient time to reach the harbor, but your flight experiences a mere 2-hour delay. Road conditions exceed expectations, and suddenly you're rushing through the airport terminal dragging your luggage behind you. You reach the port perspiring and anxious only to learn the boarding gate sealed 90 minutes prior. That concludes it. The situation is finished. No alternatives, no sympathetic explanations. No degree of pleading will secure your passage on that ship. Previous cruise staff members report this represents one of the most heartbreaking situations they observe. Witnessing individuals realize their complete vacation disappeared because of a single scheduling risk that failed. A cruise industry professional with over 10 years' experience explained it perfectly. The boarding entrance closes 90 minutes prior to sailing, without exceptions. I've observed mature adults collapse in emotional distress at the dock, and absolutely no one can provide assistance. Your vessel has departed, your payment is forfeited, and you must determine how to return home or meet the ship at its following destination, potentially costing thousands additional. Here's the approach experienced cruisers take instead. They arrive by air at least 1 day in advance, occasionally 2 for international voyages. Certainly, this requires additional hotel expenses, but that represents minimal cost compared to forfeiting your complete vacation. Furthermore, you can discover the departure city and begin your holiday relaxed rather than in crisis mode. However, even reaching the ship punctually won't protect you from error number 3, which could financially destroy you in unexpected ways. How has your experience been with traveling on embarkation day? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Look, I understand. You've already invested heavily in the cruise, and then they attempt to sell you travel protection for several $100s more. It appears like another revenue scheme, so you decline and continue. However, former cruise staff members are urgently warning you against this error. Mistake 3. No travel insurance. Here's an authentic Reddit nightmare that became widespread. A newlywed couple on their Caribbean honeymoon cruise. One partner developed intense abdominal discomfort and required treatment at the ship's medical facility. Care to know the cost of a single COVID test aboard a cruise vessel? $274 solely for the examination. The complete medical expense for what should have been a minor digestive problem exceeded $800. If medical helicopter evacuation from the ship becomes necessary, you're facing expenses in the high five-figure range. We're discussing $50 to $100,000. A cruise staff member recounted a passenger experiencing cardiac arrest during the voyage. The medical transport back to America cost the family $87,000. $87,000 for helicopter transportation. And here's something most individuals don't understand. Your standard health coverage likely excludes you after departing U.S. territorial waters. Medicare and Medicaid become worthless aboard a cruise vessel. You're essentially risking your economic stability each time you board that ship without protection. Travel protection extends beyond medical crises, too. What occurs if you're 24 weeks expecting and arrive to board? Most cruise companies will refuse your passage, and without coverage, you forfeit the cruise's complete cost. Identical consequences apply if your infant is younger than 6 months. The remedy is straightforward. Purchase comprehensive travel protection covering medical transport and trip interruption. Yes, it requires upfront investment, but it's insignificant compared to potential losses. Regarding financial losses, error number 4 concerns missing experiences that become unavailable before you finish unpacking. Ally Kerr, an entertainer who's performed on more than 100 cruise vessels, considers this among the worst vacation disasters possible. She's observed it ruin countless trips. And here's precisely how it unfolds. You board feeling calm and flexible. We'll decide our activities upon arrival, you think. Major error. While you're settling in and organizing, everyone else frantically reserves every available dining spot and activity opening. Before evening arrives on day 1, everything you genuinely wanted becomes completely unavailable. Mistake 4. Not booking early. The initial day aboard creates complete mayhem. Everyone attempts booking shore activities, arranging internet service, securing premium restaurant tables, and claiming popular activity positions. Cruise companies intentionally restrict availability to generate this competitive atmosphere. And without preparation, you'll be excluded. Consider this. 3,000 individuals occupy that vessel. However, the premium steakhouse accommodates only 200 diners. The Dolphin Interaction excursion offers perhaps 40 total positions. The chef's exclusive experience accommodates a maximum of 12 participants. Calculate those odds. Mistake 5. Being rude to crew. The initial day aboard creates complete mayhem. Everyone attempts booking shore activities, arranging internet service, securing premium restaurant tables, and claiming popular activity positions. Cruise companies intentionally restrict availability to generate this competitive atmosphere. And without preparation, you'll be excluded. Consider this. 3,000 individuals occupy that vessel. However, the premium steakhouse accommodates only 200 diners. The Dolphin Interaction excursion offers perhaps 40 total positions. The chef's exclusive experience accommodates a maximum of 12 participants. Calculate those odds. Observed passengers desperately implore staff to accommodate them somehow, somewhere, because they hadn't realized how quickly options vanish. Consider this. 3,000 individuals occupy that vessel. However, the premium steakhouse accommodates only 200 diners. The Dolphin Interaction excursion offers perhaps 40 total positions. The chef's exclusive experience accommodates a maximum of 12 participants. Calculate those odds. Here's the professional's approach. They reserve everything potentially interesting before boarding the ship. Most cruise companies allow online activity and restaurant bookings weeks beforehand. Certainly, cancellation remains possible if plans change, but at least options exist because once aboard with everything unavailable, your sole choice becomes whatever remains. And believe me, the remaining options after others have selected aren't why you planned this vacation. This might appear self-evident, But Pippa Madden, who served Royal Caribbean and Celebrity Cruises for 8 years, identifies this as the error that absolutely enrages crew members most. And here's the reason. It's costing you significantly more than you understand. That staff member you just treated harshly because your accommodation wasn't prepared. They didn't establish the policy. They're simply performing their duties, often with minimal rest, working continuously for months. But here's your oversight. That identical crew member might provide access to experiences unavailable for purchase. A former cruise director managing a 3,600-passenger vessel explains it perfectly. We'll consistently try our best to assist you, but we won't feel motivated to exceed expectations for you. Remember that certain events, like captain's dinner invitations, are exclusive or unadvertised. And having crew member assistance to include your name on that special list could transform your cruise into something extraordinary. Consider this. These staff members manage everything from accommodation improvements to securing entrance to unavailable performances. They know which dining venues have last-minute openings, which tours maintain availability, and they can facilitate invitations to private events most passengers never discover. But they'll only provide exceptional service to passengers treating them respectfully. One previous employee revealed that discourteous passengers receive minimal service, while courteous ones receive surprise room improvements, complimentary premium restaurant experiences, and exclusive behind-the-scenes access. Staff members communicate with each other and information spreads rapidly regarding which passengers deserve assistance and which don't. The solution is straightforward. Demonstrate genuine kindness. Express gratitude appropriately. Remember your cabin attendant's name. When problems arise, approach with patience rather than frustration. Remember, these are individuals working exceptionally hard to create an amazing vacation, not machines designed to accept mistreatment. However, treating the crew kindly won't shield you from error number 6, which might cost hundreds of dollars daily. Mistake 6. Not buying drink packages early. Here's an account that'll cause financial pain just hearing it. A Royal Caribbean traveler reported on Reddit accumulating a $700 beverage bill during merely a 3-night voyage. $700 in 3 days. They claimed they didn't feel particularly excessive. But paying $15 per cocktail and $8 per beer accumulates faster than you can order another round. But here's the revelation. Royal Caribbean and other major cruise companies have completely removed onboard beverage package discounts. Absolutely nothing. 0 deals available. If you didn't purchase before boarding that vessel, you're paying maximum prices. This represents a significant change from previous policies. And cruise companies expect passengers to remain unaware. Former cruise staff reveal this strategy as completely deliberate. They've observed passengers experience price shock at bars, then frantically attempt purchasing drink packages for savings, only to learn costs remain identical to months earlier booking prices. No emergency discounts, no sympathetic assistance available. And here's what intensifies the situation. Once aboard that vessel, you become a trapped consumer. You cannot visit nearby stores for cheaper beverages. Cruise companies understand this and exploit that psychological pressure for profit maximization. One former staff member regularly observed passengers spending more on beverages weekly than their complete cruise fare. The calculation is straightforward but expensive. Assuming 4 alcoholic drinks daily during a 7-day voyage. At $15 each, that totals $420. But purchasing the beverage package beforehand for approximately $250 would save nearly $200. The intelligent strategy. Purchase your beverage package during cruise booking or at minimum before boarding. Even with uncertainty about consumption-justifying costs, cancellation typically remains possible before cruising without penalties. But once aboard, you're obligated to pay their demanded prices. And regarding unexpected charges, let's discuss error number 7. This involves your mobile device and might cost thousands. Mistake 7. Not putting phone in airplane mode. This error occurs so regularly that former cruise staff claim it destroys more vacations than nearly any other factor. And it happens within your first 5 minutes aboard. You've boarded. You're thrilled. You want to message your family about your safe arrival. You send the message and you've just initiated a financial catastrophe that won't appear until receiving your phone statement weeks later. Here's the devastating reality. Without enabling airplane mode before boarding, those harmless text messages and calls receive international roaming charges. We're discussing $25 per text message, $15 per call minute, and occasionally exceeding $100 daily just for your device connecting to the ship's satellite system without active usage. One cruise passenger shared their online nightmare. They forgot to disable cellular data and accumulated over $2,000 in roaming fees during a 7-day Caribbean voyage. $2,000 for social media checking and sharing several photos with friends. Their device quietly downloaded application updates and synchronized photos during sleep. And each data unit cost them significantly. But here's where it becomes more severe. Even receiving text messages generates charges. Someone messages you, "Enjoy your cruise." And immediately, you're billed for receiving it. Your device automatically retrieves emails, creating more charges, those application alerts appearing. You're paying for each occurrence. Former cruise staff report observing passengers receive phone statements exceeding their complete vacation costs. One family faced a $4,000 phone bill after their teenager remained unaware their device stayed connected to cellular service. $4,000 for 1 week of casual phone usage. The remedy is straightforward, but requires pre-boarding action. Enable airplane mode, then activate Wi-Fi. For connectivity, purchase the ship's internet service, typically costing $30 to $50 daily, but includes usage limits. Or preferably, disconnect entirely and embrace being unreachable temporarily. However, even managing your phone perfectly won't prevent error number 8 from potentially stranding you at foreign ports. Mistake 8. Not checking departure times. Natalie Derlinger believed she had everything planned perfectly. She enjoyed a leisurely lunch near the dock in Cozumel, taking time because she knew the ship's scheduled departure. What she didn't realize was that MSC Divina had modified their sailing time and she was about to witness her cruise vessel literally depart without her. She remained in complete shock watching her floating accommodation vanish beyond the horizon. One moment she enjoyed a pleasant meal, the next she was abandoned in Mexico without transportation home and uncertain how to reunite with her cruise. Former cruise staff identify this as among the most devastating situations they witness because it's entirely preventable. Yet passengers repeat this identical error continuously. They verify departure times once upon disembarking and never check again. But cruise schedules change constantly. Weather complications, port difficulties, mechanical issues, and boarding deadlines can shift by hours with minimal warning. Here's what makes it more devastating. If you miss the vessel, you're entirely responsible for yourself. The cruise company won't fund your accommodation, transportation, or dining. You must determine how to reach the following port and rejoin the cruise completely at personal expense. We're discussing thousands in emergency travel expenses. And that assumes you can actually reunite with the ship. One cruise professional who worked vessels for over 10 years shared observing passengers spend more money attempting to catch their cruise than they invested in the original vacation. Flying from remote Caribbean locations to the next port can exceed $1,500 on short notice, plus lodging, dining, and local transportation. The solution is straightforward but essential. Always, without exception, verify your departure time before leaving the ship for any destination. Don't depend on yesterday's or last week's information. Confirm it every single time. Most vessels display current schedules near the gangway, and staff members can always verify the latest timetable. And here's the professional advice. Return to the ship at least 1 hour before official departure. This provides cushion for unexpected complications like traffic delays, extensive taxi queues, or becoming lost returning to the port. However, even a timely ship return won't protect you from error number 9, which could completely prevent boarding. Mistake 9. Visa requirements. Meet the Coates family. They reserved what they considered a once-in-a-lifetime journey. A voyage from Tokyo across Asia, visiting multiple countries they'd always hoped to experience. They handled everything correctly. Reserved early, updated their passports, packed appropriately. What they failed to do was verify visa requirements for every destination on their route. Everything began wonderfully. Tokyo exceeded expectations. South Korea was fantastic and they enjoyed themselves tremendously. Then midway through the voyage, crew members arrived at their door with crushing information. They needed to pack immediately and permanently disembark the ship. Apparently, they lacked proper authorization for the upcoming destination, and nobody identified the error until mid-journey. Holland America offered no compassion, partial reimbursements, or homeward assistance. The Coates family was compelled to arrange their own flights back to America from the ship's current location, and they forfeited every dollar paid for the cruise. Former cruise staff report this occurs more frequently than expected because passengers assume cruise booking eligibility means automatic destination access. That's completely incorrect. Visa requirements operate independently from cruise reservations, and determining needs for every country remains entirely your obligation. Here's what increases complexity. Some nations maintain different visa requirements depending on the entry method. You might not need authorization flying into a country as a visitor, but absolutely require one arriving via cruise vessel. The regulations differ, processing periods vary, and requirements can be completely distinct. And don't assume you can simply avoid ports lacking proper documentation. Most cruise companies will force complete disembarkation if you cannot legally enter their next stop. They won't risk governmental problems over your visa oversight. The answer is exhausting but vital. Investigate every destination on your itinerary months before traveling. Examine visa requirements, processing durations, and any specific cruise passenger regulations. Some authorizations require weeks or months for processing. Therefore, this cannot be delayed until departure approaches. However, even with perfect documentation, error number 10 might leave you hauling luggage throughout the ship for hours. Mistake 10. Overpacking. Envision this terrible situation. You've loaded your complete wardrobe into 3 enormous suitcases because, after all, it's a week-long cruise and you desire choices. You transport all that baggage through the airport, pay additional luggage charges, struggle moving everything to the ship, and then the porter offers room delivery. You think, no thanks. I'll handle it myself. Terrible choice. Enormous error. You don't understand that your stateroom remains unavailable for hours. The cleaning staff continues working. Your bedding isn't prepared. And your access cards aren't activated. Now you're trapped dragging 3 massive suitcases around a packed vessel with thousands of fellow passengers, seeking seating, obstructing others, and feeling completely foolish. A cruise employee with over 7 years' experience identifies this as one of the most difficult errors they observe passengers commit. Many passengers choose to keep their baggage personally. But numerous don't realize their stateroom remains unavailable for hours, so they're trapped carrying suitcases around the packed vessel. But conditions worsen. When you finally access your cabin, you find it resembles a walk-in closet size. Barely sufficient space for 2 people standing, much less storage for 3 massive suitcases of clothing. You've brought evening attire for each night, casual clothing for daily activities, exercise equipment, beach gear, excursion outfits, and backup alternatives for everything. Nothing fits anywhere. Former cruise staff regularly observe passengers who've packed so extensively they cannot move comfortably within their cabin. One employee shared witnessing families with luggage stacked so extensively on tiny beds that sleeping space disappeared until hours of reorganization. Here's the reality you need. Most cruise vessels provide laundry services, and you'll likely wear identical comfortable clothes repeatedly anyway. That formal clothing you pack for every evening. Most individuals wear the same outfit or garment multiple times because no one notices and no one monitors. The intelligent method involves checking your ship's website and planning attire based on actual dress requirements and activities. Coordinate colors for mixing and matching pieces rather than bringing completely separate outfits for each occasion. And please, allow the porters to transport your luggage to your room. Speaking of accommodations, error number 11 involves selecting incorrect placement and could result in sleeplessness and misery throughout your entire cruise. Mistake 11. Bad cabin location, the critical one. Recall my warning about error number 11? Here it is, and it might genuinely destroy every night of your voyage. You notice that incredible cabin deal and think you've discovered something special. The rate seems too attractive to refuse, so you reserve without examining deck layouts. Congratulations! You've just purchased a week of complete suffering. Here's what no one mentions during booking. Cabin placement determines everything. That excellent offer you discovered. It's likely positioned directly above the nightclub that broadcasts heavy bass music until 2 a.m. nightly. Or perhaps it's adjacent to elevator areas where you'll hear constant dinging and luggage sounds plus loud conversations around the clock. One cruise professional who worked ships for 10 years shares these horror accounts. Cabins near elevators experience continuous foot traffic, while those above nightclubs vibrate until 2 a.m. They've had passengers desperately request room changes because noise levels prevented sleep for days. But conditions worsen. Some cabins are located near the ship's engine compartment where you'll experience constant mechanical sounds and vibrations. Others position beneath the pool area, so you'll hear deck furniture being moved starting at 6 a.m., plus children screaming and loud pool activities throughout the day. Certain cabins sit adjacent to laundry facilities where industrial machines operate continuously. And here's a scenario most never consider. Some cabins are located near waste and recycling zones. Imagine attempting to enjoy morning coffee on your balcony while hearing glass crushing and waste collection vehicles emptying containers. The odors alone can render certain outdoor areas completely unusable. Former staff report that cruise companies know exactly which cabins create these difficulties, which explains why they're consistently offered at significant discounts. They're not demonstrating generosity. They're attempting to fill rooms they know will generate complaints. The remedy requires 5 minutes but might preserve your complete vacation. Before reserving any cabin, carefully examine the ship's deck diagrams. Observe what's above, below, and beside your location. Avoid anything near elevators, entertainment venues, pools, theaters, engine areas, or service zones. Yes, better positioned cabins cost more. But believe me, sleep justifies every cent. And regarding expenses exceeding expectations, error number 12 involves reaching those incredible destinations. Mistake 12. Poor transportation planning. You've arrived at paradise. The ship docks at this beautiful Caribbean harbor. You can almost taste the adventure and you're prepared to explore. You disembark without plans except, we'll determine our activities upon arrival. 20 minutes later, aggressive taxi operators quote prices that would embarrass your mortgage payment. This is where situations deteriorate rapidly. That pleasant taxi operator who approached you at the dock just quoted $80 for reaching a beach literally 15 minutes away. When you attempt negotiating, suddenly his English comprehension deteriorates from 30 seconds prior. Another driver intervenes offering $75, then another at $70, and now you're experiencing a pricing competition where everyone's still overcharging you. Former cruise staff working these routes for years identify this as among the most common disasters they hear from passengers. One shared witnessing tourists pay $150 for a custom island experience that was basically a 20-minute drive to a public beach where they were abandoned with no return transportation except calling the same expensive taxi. But here's what makes it more problematic. You're racing against deadlines. Your ship departs at a designated time regardless of your presence. Therefore, you cannot leisurely seek better prices or learn public transportation. Taxi operators understand this and will definitely exploit that time constraint to extract maximum payment. And let's discuss return transportation. That driver who promised 4 o'clock pickup. Sometimes they appear, sometimes they don't, and sometimes they arrive an hour late with other tourists, transforming your peaceful day into a frantic sprint to reach the ship. A cruise professional with over 10 years' experience expressed it perfectly. Simply ensure price and timing negotiation before entering. Ensure the ship returns at a minimum 30 minutes before the boarding deadline. But superior advice involves researching transportation alternatives before booking the cruise. Most ports display official taxi rates somewhere, and many destinations offer dependable shuttle services, local public transport, or ride-sharing applications costing significantly less than dock taxi operators charge. Some ports even provide complimentary shuttles to popular beaches or city centers. The intelligent approach involves spending 10 minutes researching each port beforehand. Know fair pricing for reaching popular destinations, maintain backup transportation alternatives, and always allow extra time for delays. However, even mastering transportation won't protect you from our final error that could seriously threaten your health and finances. Mistake 13. Trusting ship medical centers. Here's our concluding error, and it's potentially life-threatening. You're experiencing illness aboard ship, so you visit the medical center expecting competent care. The physician examines you, diagnoses probable seasickness or food-related illness, provides medication, and dismisses you. You completely trust their assessment because, naturally, they're a cruise ship doctor, correct? Incorrect. Here's what former cruise medical personnel won't reveal. Ship medical centers essentially function as elaborate first aid stations. They're designed for treating minor injuries, basic ailments, and stabilizing patients until reaching actual hospitals on land. That physician you're seeing might possess very limited experience with serious conditions, obsolete equipment, and no access to diagnostic technology that could actually preserve your life. Remember that Reddit account about the couple facing the $800 medical expense for digestive issues? That wasn't merely expensive, it was potentially hazardous. The ship's medical center couldn't perform proper examinations, couldn't conduct comprehensive blood analysis, and couldn't perform imaging studies that might have revealed something serious. One former cruise staff member shared a frightening account about a passenger repeatedly visiting the medical center with chest discomfort. The ship's physician continually dismissed it as nervousness or stomach upset. When they finally reached port and the passenger visited an actual hospital, they learned he'd experienced multiple minor heart attacks. The diagnostic delay could have proven fatal. Here's the devastating reality. Cruise ship medical facilities cannot handle serious emergencies. If you're experiencing cardiac arrest, stroke, or any major medical crisis, their maximum capability involves keeping you alive until helicopter transport to a proper hospital. And recall those medical evacuation expenses we discussed earlier? We're returning to those $50 to $100,000 helicopter trips. Insurance limitations make this more frightening. Most travel protection policies strictly limit onboard medical treatment coverage, and they often completely exclude certain care types. You could face enormous medical expenses alongside inadequate treatment. If you have any significant medical conditions, don't depend on the ship's medical center beyond basic care. If something feels genuinely serious, insist on transport to the nearest port for appropriate medical attention. Yes, it might destroy your cruise, but it could preserve your life. Therefore, there you have it. 13 cruise errors that might transform your ideal vacation into a complete disaster. Every single one remains entirely preventable with proper knowledge of potential risks. If this video prevented even one of these expensive errors, hit that like button and subscribe for additional insider travel advice. Now, here's my request. Comment "smooth sailing" if you watched it completely. Then share your personal cruise experiences. Have you committed any of these errors? Did you observe other passengers making them? I review every comment and appreciate hearing your accounts. I also respond to my favorite comments. Thanks for viewing and enjoy your cruising.